Truth number one for you as college students is that casual sex impairs your ability to bond with someone else. When natural human emotions are suppressed, what we have is a situation where your heart becomes hardened and your capacity to bond with another human being is weakened. And over time, when these responses are repeatedly denied, that gets harder and harder to accomplish. And so you find that someone who has had sexual intimacy with 3, 4, or 5 people are unable to experience the normal emotional responses, and so they don't have the kind of pleasure with sexual activity, nor do they have the emotional responses to sexual activity that a married couple has when they are committed to each other and when that sexual experience is exclusive to the couple itself. Truth number 2, casual sex causes pain, primarily to women but also to men. Casual sex causes pain before marriage, and ironically and horribly, casual sex continues on when a couple is married. In fact, one researcher said that the only constructive arena for sex to be satisfying is within marriage. This researcher did a study of 1,000 couples over a period of 10 years, and what he found was that when he got to the root of the couple's problems, invariably it was because of infidelity and their past experience in casual sex. Truth number 3, casual sex leaves women alone and lonely. It's astounding to see how fast marriage rates have dropped over the last 20 years. They have dropped nearly 50% here in the United States. Who loses in that situation? The women do. Back in 1970, there were 149 marriages per 1,000 women, now only 76. In 1940, less than 8% of women lived alone. Now, more than a quarter of women do. And yet you ask high school students today what they want out of life, and 90% of them say they want to be married, they want to have children. This is an ideal that people have, and yet the culture that we live in today that is so permeated with casual sex means that most women are finding that marriage is eluding them. And many of them are missing out on children because they're not getting married until past the time that they are able to have children. The number of married couples living together today is 10 times as large as it was in 1970. And many of these couples have children. And so the harm is not just to women, but it's also to the children that are born within these unstable and very rocky relationships. Truth number 4, the sexual revolution has produced unprecedented, dramatic increases in sexually transmitted diseases. And the majority of those diseases are amongst college age and high school age young people. 65% of the sexually transmitted diseases are amongst young people under age 25. Women have been the primary victims here. So any way you cut it, casual sex is disastrous for young women. What we see today is that 20% of the AIDS cases are amongst college-age young people. And as I travel from campus to campus, I find students are totally unaware of this problem. They think of AIDS as something in a foreign country, primarily Africa. They don't understand that this is a prime problem amongst college-age populations. And they also don't know that there are more than 15 million new STDs every year, most of them amongst college-age young people. These STDs have tripled in the last 6 years. Along with all the casual sex that has become so rampant on college campuses, we are seeing an explosion of STDs. In fact, in 1960, there were only 3 known STDs. And today, there are more than 24, and many of them are fatal. And yet we see advertisements on television all the time that show beautiful scenes of really rustic situations, fields of clover and couples dancing through those fields holding hands, and the text of the message is that STDs are no big deal. You just take this pill and it's all okay. No, it's not, because that is only a medicine that cures the symptoms. It does not cure the disease itself. In fact, HPV, a common cancer amongst women, causes over 90% of cervical cancers, and 5,000 women a year die from HPV. This is not a casual matter. It's not something that we ought to be covering over with beautiful advertising as though it's nothing. And I say to you, young women and young men, STDs are 6 times higher amongst couples who are living together without marriage than amongst married couples. This is a message that you need to hear. Having 3 or more sexual partners during your lifetime increases 15 times your chances of getting an STD. This is not something light. This is not something that you ought to consider in a very blasé manner. We cannot dictate to nature, nor can we ignore nature. Our choices have consequences, and many of the consequences of your choices today are life and death matters. Sex is not just fun and games. We cannot, by treating sex as something casual, actually make it something casual. We don't have the ability to do that. We can shout it from the rooftops and in advertising and imply it very casually and subtly in conversations, but that doesn't make sex casual. Sexual intercourse can be life's most intense and pleasurable experience, but it's more than that. It's far more than that. So what is sex? Sexual intimacy triggers life's strongest and deepest passions. You don't want to trigger those passions without regard to the consequences. You don't want to trigger those passions irresponsibly. The sexual impulse is designed by God to link us together as man and wife into one flesh. Sex is designed to produce life, but it's also designed to produce strong relationships, to protect and provide for that life, and to make a couple into one. So sex can't be free. There's no way sex can be free. It is full of consequences. And we have to recognize that many of the handsome, cool guys on campus would not make good husbands, nor would some of the most beautiful and hot women be your best choice for your wife or the mother of your children. We have to be very careful in the choices we make about our life partners, and very careful not to squander the sexual attraction that we feel toward someone. For those who do not remain celibate, the choice comes down to a faithful monogamous marriage versus casual promiscuous sex and meaningless relationships. I recommend for you today that the really healthy choice, the choice that will bring you the most happiness, is marriage rather than casual sex.
This presentation of an honest talk about casual sex, false promises, searing pain, and tragic problems has been brought to you by Concerned Women for America's Beverly LaHaye Institute. For more information on the work of CWA and the Beverly LaHaye Institute, visit www.cwfa.org. That's cwfa.org.